Good morning, everyone. I'm Ken Fadner, Chairman of MediaPost. Boy, when you say that with the P, if you emphasize the P, you get post. MediaPost. There it is again. We've been doing the Search Insider Summit here in Deer Valley for 11 straight years, mostly at this facility, Stein Erikson Lodge. How many people have come to all 11 of those shows? John Whitfield?
I have.
Yeah, okay, good. I knew.
I thought it was rhetorical for me, but
Yeah, me too.
I missed you all.
But it's been a great ride. We have a particularly brilliant set of circumstances weather-wise here. We've been here sometimes when it's been 60 degrees and we walk around in the sun in T-shirts, and other times when it's been even colder. But we are supposed to, someone told me we're supposed to get 7 feet of snow in the next 7 days. Of course, we're only here 3 days, and so a lot of that is only academic. But it is supposed to snow. I haven't checked since last night, but sometime between 3 p.m. today, I understand, and about 3 p.m. tomorrow, we're going to get about a foot of snow. So that'll be nice for tomorrow afternoon skiing, and hopefully won't get too much in the way of going up the mountain as we do tonight to the Cheese Chalet. Sorry. I'm sorry, because I made a joke like that. It wasn't that funny to any of you, I know, but I made a joke like that at the email summit. We were going to the Cheese Palace up the mountain, and John took umbrage. It's actually a place tonight called Empire Canyon Lodge, and it's actually great fun. And you have raclette next to the fireplace, and I don't know, there are all kinds of other things cooked over the fireplace, and it's a brilliant setting in the woods at the top of the mountain. By the way, that reminds me, guests are welcome. If you call having to pay extra to bring a guest, welcome. If you do want to bring a guest, not someone from your company who happens to be in the room with you and you want to have come join you, but you know, a significant other, any kind of person you've traveled with, you can come and you can go to the registration desk and make arrangements for any of the activities or even any of the evening events. But I basically digress. I'm not supposed to give you all that information right now. I'm supposed to thank our premier sponsor and breakfast sponsor, Bing, who've been strong supporters of the summit these last half dozen years or so. We appreciate their support very much. And this morning you're going to hear from Kaya Sainsbury-Carter, the VP of Global Partner Services of Microsoft Advertising. And thanks very much to Bing as the premier sponsor. Kaya, please come up.
We are off to a flying start. Well, thanks everybody for coming and for coming so early. I think this is the premier spot. Just flown in, had cocktails, and just got up, so it's going to be exciting. Bing, I will represent momentarily for Bing. We are a big supporter of this event, as Ken said. I'm very excited to be here to represent not only what's happening in the search space specifically, but in the broader advertising space at Microsoft. And so let's jump right in. My name is Kaya Sainsbury-Carter. I run the Global Partner Service team for Microsoft Advertising, and that encompasses a number of different strategic partnership types, if you will, supply partnerships. We manage the Yahoo partnership, global agency holding companies, so sort of an array of different partner relationships. And in my day job, you know, I have been in and out of search for about 12 years, for a while in display, back into search recently. And so in my day job, it's an exciting space to be in Bing in general. Bing really sits at the core of Microsoft's vision around empowering people and businesses to do more. And having started when it was live search and before Ad Centers actually launched, when it was not at the center of what Microsoft was doing, that in and of itself is a really interesting and exciting, certainly never boring experience. But I'm not going to talk about what's happening day to day with Bing right now. We're going to talk about the future, and the future specifically of search as it relates to conversations and as it relates to bots. And one of the key things that, that we're really interested in is that there's this transformation that's underway. It feels like this space is always transforming, but there's this transformation that's underway right now that we'll talk through from, current platforms, let's say of record, into this new space that we have the opportunity to influence, to utilize on behalf of our clients. And so it's a really interesting time. I don't know that we'll have time for questions. If we do, I welcome them, and if not, super happy to talk offline on this topic. So as we jump in, first I'd like to play a video just to give you a sense, if you haven't heard about what we're doing with bots, around what we're thinking of what we're calling conversations as a platform. So if we could roll the video, or I could roll the video.
Each day, we navigate a sea of apps, each with its own unique interface to help us accomplish simple tasks. But are they really making life less complex? What if you could simply pick up your device and start speaking to it? What if you could use the most powerful tool we as human beings use every day? Language. With Skype, Cortana, and the Microsoft Cloud, we're creating an intelligent canvas that's intuitive whether you're tracking the delivery of a package, booking a room at your favorite hotel, scheduling an important customer meeting, or even ordering a pizza. From the moment we're born, we engage in conversations. And if human beings are truly hardwired for anything, it's the ability to interact with one another. So when we think about the next big thing in computing, we're actually betting on the very first thing in being human.
So, in talking about the future of search and this concept called conversations as a platform, first I'd like to take a bit of a step back and look at technology progression more broadly, and then we'll get a little bit deeper into the nitty-gritty of what we're doing. When we look back on the progress of technology over time, and we really peel back the layers of what we've been doing, what we've been trying to accomplish is to create a more natural, sort of more human way of connecting, whether it's machine to machine, human to machine. And you can see some quotes here from Satya Nadella, our CEO, who's a pretty inspirational guy, around this transformation that he sees occurring today, where at the crux of it, we are seeing a really astounding increase and growth in the amount of data and information that's being created. And this is not new. We've seen this over time, really over the last 40 to 50 years. But what's new here is not only the actual growth, where this year alone, in 2016, we humans, will create 10 zettabytes of data. And I had never heard of a zettabyte until I was preparing for this talk, but apparently it's 10 to the 21st power, so a lot, right? That's this year. IDC says that by the year 2020, that will be 40 zettabytes of data. And so we're in this period where the amount of data and information that hits people in their technology engagement has grown exponentially. But what hasn't grown is time and human capacity to actually absorb and do something with all of this information. And so we're at this very interesting sort of moment in time where the previous paradigm of having access to information being power and enabling you to do more and be more effective is not necessarily true, because you don't have more time and you don't have more capacity to actually take all of that in and do something with it that's better, more interesting, more effective. And so, as I said, we have seen this over time from, platform transitions from the early days, back in the 80s, where we had desktops. The sort of mode of interaction was through web forms. And that transitioned over time to the internet, which created search. So thank you very much for all of our jobs. And a different way of engaging, which was through websites. And that in turn transitioned over time to the mobile space that we're in today, where you have touch and apps as the mechanism for engagement. And throughout all of those transitions, of course, there's more data, there's more information, and you have, a new way to process it and engage with it that is powerful. And those new ways made things easier, a little closer, a little more intimate, because you knew how to engage with more information. But they also created a lot of complexity, right? A new way of engaging that you don't understand. I mean, the amount of time I've spent teaching my parents how to use touch, just that, it's not natural. It's not what they were expecting. And so, with progress has come complexity. So the next platform shift that we see here in terms of the future of conversations is really interesting, because it both builds on the past, as all of these shifts have done, but it also brings with it this new layer of intelligence, this new layer of AI experiences that really serve to augment human capability. And while I do not work on bots in my day-to-day job, just the time spent, really understanding what we're trying to do has been very exciting to me as we think about the impact of what this looks like on day-to-day life, on business, and on what we do, certainly in our jobs. The other interesting thing about the platform of the conversation is that it's not about you fitting to it, like learning how to use touch, which feels super unnatural to some people, like my 70-year-old mother. It fits to you. It fits to you, and it comes to you and works in the way that you want to work, because it's based on natural human language. So let's talk a bit more about what this looks like. When we think about conversations as a platform, there are, I'd say, a couple of things to take away. One, this whole natural language component is absolutely critical. We'll talk about it the rest of the talk. Two, bots. And when I was in here earlier, I was just sitting randomly by a table who were talking about bots. So either you already know all of this, and I would love some education from you, or this is super relevant. But conversations as a platform, where we think about natural language or we think about bots, is creating opportunity kind of across the landscape. One, for developers, right, where developers have a new platform, a new canvas on which to paint their creativity and their ideas. Two, businesses. You, your customers, our customers, who have a new and different opportunity in terms of how they engage with customers, how they think about the sort of crux of customer satisfaction and customer excellence. And then personally, there's a huge element to this that is about individuals having a more personal way of discovering, accessing, and interacting with just about everything, whether it's information, which we talked about is exploding, whether it's with a business or with an individual. And so let's get into what conversations as a platform actually entails. There are three actors, if you will, on this stage. The first is the human, us, you. And the key shift that we've already noted in conversations as a platform is this shift to natural human language as the user interface. And if there's one thing to really take away about CAP, about conversations as a platform, it's taking the power of human language, which everyone, for the most part, has, at their disposal, and then applying it pervasively to every computing experience, to every platform, such that this becomes a method for you to engage with businesses. I think, in our context today is the most key, but really to engage with anyone. And of course, this is going to require new capabilities in AI. This is going to require new capabilities in overall machine learning. And those things are happening. Those progressions are occurring as we speak to really light up this key player, the human, in conversations as a platform. The second, of course, is the bot. And the bot in this landscape, I I want you to think about as the new app, right? So apps lit up mobile through touch. Bots will light up conversations through human language. And the apps will live in what we're calling a conversational canvas. So that could be Facebook Messenger, could be Skype, could be Slack. There are any number of different conversational platforms or canvases where bots will live and interact. And why is this important? The data shows it's important, right? 3 billion people use messaging and apps and chat apps every single day. And in that landscape, consumers are spending 4 to 5x the amount of time in messaging and chat apps than they are any other apps in the mobile ecosystem. And so bots living in this chat space is a critical component of this landscape that we're painting called Conversations as a Platform. The one thing to think about, how many of you interact with bots that you know of? Yeah, I mean, it's probably more than we think. I was just hearing a story earlier about how bots were used in the election, and people didn't realize they weren't talking to a person. But, you know, bots today aren't super sophisticated. When we're talking about bots in the construct of Conversations as a Platform, we're talking about smart bots who recognize emotion, who recognize tone, because you've empowered them to remember your conversations, to remember your interests, such that they get to know you and can therefore be more effective in how they help you accomplish whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. So I think it's important to kind of see that progression of where bots are going so that we can understand where they might be the most effective. And then the third leg of this stool is the personal digital assistant. And the Cortana is our personal digital assistant. Microsoft, there are others. But at a high level, the way we're looking at this particular player is really as a meta-bot, right? So you have yourself, you have your needs, your problems that you're trying to solve, solutions that you're looking for. You have bots that can bring some answers to those questions, problems, and the solutions. And then you have an assistant who is making sure that that's working for you in an effective way. And the way that those are tied together is really the key, right? Because they're tied together through artificial intelligence, right? They don't work unless they're augmented through this landscape of artificial intelligence, where AI helps us really make sense, if we go back to the initial part of the discussion, make sense of this vast, sort of overwhelming deluge of data and information, and turns it into intelligent interactions, turns it into experiences that are useful versus either something that you may not even see or something that you don't know what to do with. And so this is the sort of legs of the stool, if you will, on what Conversations as a Platform is made up of. So, in this room, I would say this is probably not new news, based on the conversation I was overhearing earlier. But, there are some scenarios that you could paint that might seem far away, that might take a lifetime even to sort of play out. However, it's key to note that this is happening right now. Conversations as a platform is a real thing, not something that Microsoft dreamed up that's going to happen in 15 years. How many of you are aware of or have used WeChat? Okay, so WeChat is a Chinese messenger app that has nearly 1 billion users, and they have taken a dominant position in understanding how to monetize messaging. And for any of you who've been around the messaging game for the last 15 years, it's not an easy thing to do. They've also taken a dominant position in how to monetize user engagement. And so this is a key place for us to learn. Mary Meeker estimates that people use WeChat for 70 minutes a day. 70 minutes a day on average. And that is 20 minutes more per day than the average use of the entire Facebook ecosystem across Facebook, Instagram, and Messenger. So just absorb, I think, that WeChat is in a big country with a lot of users who spend a lot of time. Demystify Asia, as reported by eMarketer, estimates that they make about $7 per year per unique user. So $7 billion. It's a pretty big business for them. And the interesting thing is how they've done it. They've taken the most basic chat, messaging app, and they've turned it into a very sophisticated platform where you might be messaging your friend or talking to your mom, and at the same time executing complex B2C engagements as well as financial transactions from inside of the WeChat ecosystem, right? So the conversational canvas that we were using to have a quick chat has become the platform. They're not the only ones doing it, but they're the biggest. And I think it's really important for people to understand what WeChat is doing. So let's get then maybe a little bit more personal. How is this relevant for all of you? I think the relevance is that A, your brands are going to have to go here if they're not already pondering it. And B, it's really quite different than where we are and where we've been. Right, so I'll assume that everyone in this room, your business or the business that you represent for a client, has a website. And let's also assume that your website is effectively optimized for mobile in the current state. That's the platform that we are sort of in, and so it works well for mobile. And probably some of those businesses have an app. Who has an app? Anybody have an app? Yes, okay. So here's the thing about apps. Apps are very effective for the things that you do often day to day. And as you can see with WeChat, there are some dynamics and some use cases where the usage is extremely high. But apps are not great in the long tail of the types of things that you do twice a year, once every couple years, like buy a house. Yet companies are spending significant investment developing apps, keeping them up, making them discoverable, marketing them for what might be not a lot of usage. So there's that sort of dynamic. The other thing about apps is that they're not really there easily when you want them, right? You have to go to them. And that is a totally fine dynamic for the space that we're in. This was an amazing evolution over time. But it's not necessarily going to optimize your business for the future. And so, it's really key to imagine, what if you could engage differently with your customers? Have faster response time to customer complaints or service opportunities with less human interaction at lower cost? What if your customer came to you and said, I'm looking for X, instead of you having to go to them to say, aren't you looking for X? And the reality is that's what CAP enables you to do. It enables you to utilize these legs of the stool with digital assistants, with bots, and then, of course, with the humans who use them to really create a new dynamic and a new opportunity to engage customers. And so at the end of the day, that's the relevant point here. Forgot my build. So let's look one step deeper. You saw a little bit of this on the video at what this looks like. So I'm in Skype, and I'm having a chat with my friend Woody, who's having a baby, and I want to come to the baby shower. And so I say to Cortana, hey, can you look for some flights for me this weekend? Cortana engages a bot, in this case Skyscanner, to go out and look for flights for me. Skyscanner engages me back directly, asks me a few clarifying questions, gets me rolling with some options. When you think about this example, a totally innocuous daily example, the power lies in frequency. The power lies in how much this is occurring out in the world. And then if you imagine a world where every brand, every business, every celebrity, maybe every person has some sort of a virtual agent, some sort of a digital version of themselves that can interact in a very human way, that can transact important things or even the boring things for you, you have a really, very interesting space predicated on AI. Microsoft is very, very ambitious in AI. It is a huge focus of ours. For anyone who follows the company, We recently had a shift in our leadership where Chi Lu left the company for personal health reasons, and Harry Shum, who took over in this space, also leads AI. And so we've had sort of the recent opportunity to get a lot more visibility into what's happening there. We have great ambitions there. And the reason is, there are probably other reasons that I'm not privy to, but the reason is that we really believe that technology has the potential to really democratize intelligence. When we go back to this idea of too much data and us not having enough time and capacity to actually do the right, let's say, effective things with it, we believe that AI can start to change that. Because if you proliferate the capabilities through every platform and every computing experience that you have that we're talking about here, you start to, we believe, actually increase people's capacity. So when we talk about too much data, no more capacity, we actually believe that you can start to increase people's capacity and ability to absorb, utilize, and do good work with all of the information that's out there. So let's talk about actually, what is it? How does it work? And the fact that it's here today. Not here tomorrow. So there are 5 building blocks for building CAP, and you can see them here. One is the Bing Knowledge Graph, and so this is really looking at all of the work and, frankly, billions of dollars that Microsoft has spent to develop Bing over the last 10 years, making that knowledge graph available publicly so that other companies can take advantage of what we've learned to start to light this up. So that's a service that we offer today. The second thing is cognitive services APIs, and this is really quite key when we look at vision APIs, language, speech, knowledge. We have a set of APIs that are available today that give you, as a potential bot developer or as a company, the ability to teach your bots about how to parse complex text, about how to understand tone and emotion, how to understand natural language through the work that we have done. The third piece, which is super key, is the bot framework. And this is essentially a toolkit for developers that is platform agnostic, not tethered to Microsoft specifically, that enables developers to build, connect, manage, and distribute and make discoverable bots. We have about 45,000 developers who are working on this framework today. As I said, it is not tethered only to Microsoft. It's open source SDKs, and it is a build once, proliferate across all platforms dynamic, which, going back to the app dialogue of what makes apps a little bit difficult, is quite a big benefit. And then the other 2 pieces are these rich conversational canvases. We talked about some of the really obvious ones like Facebook Messenger, like Skype. But in many companies, you will also have some commercial platforms that are interesting. We have millions of users of Outlook. We have millions of users of Office 365. And so there's also an opportunity for us in various contexts to try to understand the commercial application as well. And then finally, Cortana. Cortana, you could say, is our digital assistant, which it is, which she is. But I would also encourage you to think about it a bit deeper and more broadly. Cortana is really our leading manifestation of the AI stack that we're building. So it's not a Siri competitor for our kids to ask crazy questions to, although that's fun. And as I was practicing for this speech, Cortana kept hearing me say her name and then looking up this long text string that I was saying, so sort of obnoxious also. Turn your volume off. But Cortana is quite a strategic asset for us and is out there being used by 133 million people in 13 markets. So it's not a startup. It's pretty core to what we're doing. And in the context of lighting up conversations as a platform with a very intelligent, kind of trustworthy assistant, if you will, that is based deeply on AI, that has deep investment, that's what Cortana means to us. So, other than having fun, skiing, what should you be doing with all of this? The first thing is really, if you're not already, thinking about how bots can transform your business or your client's business in terms of how you engage with your customers, how you think about, anything from a small business who, for someone to call and ask about their menu or maybe make a reservation or ask if there are more tables available than what's in, open table, you got to look it up, you got to call them, maybe they don't answer, maybe they call you back. Even in that small business example, the existence of a bot starts to be meaningful. When you translate that to a larger company, we're starting to explore using bots for Microsoft support, which is supporting millions and millions of people around the world. It's a very expensive service. And that can quite, rapidly and significantly change the dynamic of how we think about responding faster with better answers in a way that actually is useful versus someone waiting on hold. So that's the first thing. Make sure you're thinking about it. Use the bot framework. It's available. You can build bots that help you start to actually access all of these rich conversations that are happening across all of these conversational canvases. And then lastly, use the APIs to make those bots intelligent. Let's not put one out there that's not as smart as it could be, because then you lack the ability to light up emotional connections and intelligent connections with your customers, and those capabilities exist today. So that's sort of the long of it. I think the short of it is this transformation is happening. It's happening around us, with us, our clients are engaging. And so the question is, what are we going to do to help lead them into this place where they can utilize it as effectively as possible? So thank you for having me. Look forward to chatting offline, and have a great rest of your session.